Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Casey Ifeanyi. I am the Executive Director of Editorial Programming at Fast Company, which run out of breath when I say that title every time. I just lead the programming here for Fast Company's events, and I'm incredibly excited for this conversation right now. So, I feel like you need no introduction, but I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself regardless, so please.
Well, I'm an independent filmmaker. I started San Antonio, Texas, came here to Austin to make movies and decided, why not revolutionize Hollywood from here? And so we've been here since.
As one does. As one does.
I made a movie for no money. I just did the audio book for Rebel Without a Crew, which 30 years was considered the Bible. Yeah. So many people came up to me over the years and said, I started being a filmmaker because of this book. It was a diary on how I made Mariachi. But a lot of businesses came up and said, it showed me how to make my own business, because it's all about taking a chance on yourself, having a vision for something no one else is doing that's impossible. Right. And somehow figuring it out and revolutionizing the industry.
Right. He's Robert Rodriguez, by the way.
I forget that part.
And Alexis, please top that introduction.
Yeah, that's hard. I'm Alexis Garcia. Let's see, I've been a lawyer. I've been an agent. I've raised hundreds of millions of dollars for independent films. And then most recently, I was head of film at a studio called Fifth Season, most famous right now for Severance, amongst other things. Yeah. And then I have a movie here, which is the last one I made at Fifth Season, which is called Friendship, which is Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. And then I have my first movie for my new company, which is called Cat 5, which is focused on action films. And then we'll talk about how that connected. That first movie is called A Working Man. It comes out March 28th. It stars Jason Statham, directed by David Ayer, written by Sylvester Stallone.
Nice. So you two came together to form Brass Knuckle Films, which is this recently announced initiative. And I had a chance to write an article and talk to you guys about it a little bit before this. But I want to hear, so they can hear this, like how this came to be. Like, how did you first meet together and then form Brass Knuckles Films? And what is it exactly?
Well, since my first film, I've been making movies really economically so I could stay in Texas and keep a lot of creative freedom. Then it also and the freedom comes from you're spending so little money, it's a win-win situation. If the movie doesn't do that well, no one gets hurt. If it does well, it does really well. So I've been able to be in the business 30 years by using all the tricks I learned on my first movie. I still write, direct, edit, compose, score, do all the photograph my movies, and my crew does the same. They're all trained here in Austin. And by cutting all the fat out, we're able to leverage the studio I have here, which is a big studio for anyone to have personally. And Alex, what were you up to at the same time last year?
Right, so I was launching my company, Cat 5, which I was going to focus on action movies. So Robert was one of my first calls. And I get on and I start pitching him about working together. And I start describing to him making movies exactly the way he's made movies his entire career. And so I was preaching to the preacher, essentially.
Yeah, but your thing was, which is cool, like sometimes I'll go to a studio and say, what are you looking for? I always go to the buyer and say, what are you looking for? What do you have a need for? Because you can order up a franchise for me, like a pizza. I make everything myself. You want a little more cheese, a little meat, no meat. And sometimes, the time they said, family, we need family. Make us a Spy Kids thing that always does well. We need to compete with Disney over at Netflix. And so I made We Can Be Heroes, which is the most rewatched movie in their history. Nothing can touch it because kids just go watch it over and over. Well, now if I ask them, they'll say action, action, action. The regime before didn't leave us enough action. Everyone always wants action, and that's when he came to me and said, "Can I borrow your studio? I want to try to get lower budget action movies there, and we just make a bunch of them, and then we'll have a John Wick or we'll have a Terminator, and out of those pancakes, some will come out really great." And I said, why is that? He goes, well, there's still a huge appetite for action all over the world. I said, well, let's join up, because that we can do really well there. There's no visual effects. We can put them out really quick. And let's do a slate of 4 pictures. That way we get 4 bites at the apple. And I love those kind of movies. And the biggest thing is that studios need them, and none of them can make them at a price. They're just too big. They're unwieldy. They're too expensive. So they pay a premium when independents go and make them.
That's and it's worth also explaining why action works so well in both the studio world and in the independent world, because it plays all over the world. Right? It translates without without issues, right? It's plot driven, it's action focused, right? So translation is not an issue. And in the U.S., I think it's a slightly different reason it plays so well now, which is they're typically pure entertainment. They're not divisive. They play middle America, so it's just a broad category that has the largest appeal and is the most commercial genre that exists.
Right.
Big budget movies are like $200 million, right? An independent action film, we're talking about 10 to 30 is a sweet spot, low range. Billion-dollar franchise, anyone heard of John Wick? John Wick, billion-dollar franchise. The last one cost $100 million. You know how much the first one cost? $20 million. $20 million to start a billion-dollar franchise. If you made 4 of those different movies with great ideas, and that's all we're targeting, our action movies. We're only targeting the movies with brass knuckle that people want, that people will pay for. This isn't pie-in-the-sky development of dream projects. No, this is going for the jugular, going for the brass knuckle, things that we know the audience internationally is starving for, studios need and don't know how to make themselves. So it's a great investment opportunity, which we'll talk about next.
That's what I was going to say. So, I mean, you laid the groundwork for there being this rabid appetite for action films and knowing the potential for these being like huge moneymakers. So the whole purpose of Brass Knuckles is allowing fans to become investors in these films. So talk to us like how you came to that, because conceivably you could have just easily made these films like you've done your whole career. Yeah. And so like what was the decision behind bringing fans into the process?
Well, we were already going to do that. Like he had already identified all the international buyers, and my plan was like, I have a studio. I have all the props from all my movies, all the costumes from all my movies over 25 years, vehicles from all my movies. I have the largest standing set in the country, if not the world, with the Alita Battle Angel set, the outside city set that's still in my parking lot. We put it there so I could keep it forever and use it for Mexico or another country. And I said, let's just get whatever we can get out of foreign for an idea we have and an actor that we have. We'll make the movie for that. We'll keep and own domestic and then sell it to some of these domestic buyers who need it for a premium. But then we ran into a company called Republic. Had wanted to meet with me. A friend of mine, a producer friend of mine, big producer friend, introduced me. He loved their whole thing of that they wanted to get into film now with investing, fan investing, unaccredited, even just to bring it open to the fans and get their fan community investing in something. I said, well, this is if you're going to put your money anywhere, don't put it in Hollywood. I wouldn't do that. I would put it on my own movies. I always have, and it always wins. So if you're going to invest, come with us, because even at the lowest level, we have, it's not for perks. It's not crowdsourcing. You are an investor. I want the fans to win, because it pisses me off that I go to Hollywood and you talk to these executives and, you know, they don't watch films. They don't buy tickets. They're just a business. And then it's such a disconnect, no passion. And then you come and meet the fans who are so into it. They watch the movies over and over. It becomes part of their life, yet they're the afterthought. They're here at the festival being told to go watch one of these movies by the studio and spread the word to their friends to get them to come spend their money, and that's all they're used for. They should be getting a piece of that. So if you invest, you not only get the experience of making the movie with us and all the perks from our favorites. One of them is everybody gets this, even at the lowest level of investment. Anyone who invests is going to be able to pitch their action movie idea to us. And the top 20 pitch directly to me. Best idea wins. We are committing to making one of the 4 pictures from an investor's idea. Because people coming up to me all the time wanting to just give me ideas. Give them away to me. And they tell me all these great ideas. Like, no, you should be a co-creator. Don't just be a fan, but be an investor. And you have a chance to be a co-creator and be standing up here next year when we're up here with a Brass Knuckle movie. You can be up here with us talking about how you created this movie with us.
And that could come from anybody. That could be somebody that has an idea and they're a writer and maybe they already have a screenplay. Or it could be somebody that's just like, I love action movies and here's an idea that I've never thought of, and we'll help bring in the writers and develop it and make it into something that's viable.
So exciting, because ever since I was a kid, I used to watch so many movies. I thought, I wish there was a job or a way I could just make money watching movies. This is the closest thing to that. Right. And then also, one of the other things people always come up, besides I got a movie idea, you wouldn't believe. The biggest question I get, will you kill me in your movie? Can I die in your movie? Just run me over, shoot me, chop my head off. I'd be like, everybody always wants to die. It's like, why? I guess that they figure that's the easiest thing they can do is just fall over dead.
And you're just good at killing
So that's
people.
one of the perks. If you put in enough money, you get to get killed in a very creative way and whatever. It's action films. I'm sure we're going to have a big body count. So.
So how do you see something like Brass Knuckle Films working within the industry? Because it feels like, you having this DIY spirit your whole career, like making movies like really outside of the studio, and now you're bringing fans in as investors. Like, how do you see this playing out in traditional Hollywood?
I'm gonna test it out this week. I'm meeting with Jim Cameron on Thursday. I'm gonna blow his mind. I'm gonna say, you remember that movie, The Terminator, you made? I'm gonna make a bunch of those, but the fans are gonna invest. So I'll be able to go to Hollywood and go to the studios and say, you need action? Guess what? I've got an action company called Brass Knuckle. I already know they're gonna say, oh, that's a great name. Has anyone ever taken that name? No one's thinking about this stuff. And not only that, I already have a fan base that's so rabid because they're investing in it. They're spreading the word. They're a part of it. I'm going to make sure that when I make money, they make money because I want it to work. I want to be the studio. And this is something I heard. Someone told me this. They should never have told me this. One of the executives said, wow, you have your own studio and you write your own scripts. If you wrote a script and took it directly to an actor, a big actor, and they wanted to do it, that's a studio killer. We can't even do that. We don't have any scripts they want to do. We're always trying to find and buy scripts. I said, studio killer. I like that. So that's what we want our company to be, and they'll know it. You walk in, they're used to people walking into their office, hat in hand, wanting to, please make my movie. When you walk in, you strut in. I got my own company. We're making our own movies without you. Do you want a part of this? I got already fans involved. They're putting their money in it. They believe in it so much. That's the thing they're always trying to get is fans to be even interested in their movies. So they'll just be ready to buy anything we have because they need it. They're starving. It's like you have eggs, and all the eggs they don't know how to get eggs.
Right, and they're not capable of, even if they would love to produce more efficiently, they'd love to bring budgets down. They're not capable of it. Tell them about the waste when you do work with a studio.
When I worked with the studio, like when I did that movie, the biggest movie on Netflix, they said, okay, that's $80 million. We'll invest that. $80 million? That's so much. I was like, I want to be a hero. I want to do it for 50. The same movie. So let me do it for 50 because I want you to make 3 of these. They can't even fathom the savings because there's so much waste. It's almost like when someone's just throwing money in the wind and you say you're going to save them, 50% of that, they're just like, what? But I went ahead and did it, and they kept looking at my budget, telling my head of production, he doesn't have enough money in visual effects or this or that or that. And I said, no, my budget's right. All your others are wrong. You're overspending on all your other movies. You'll watch. Sure enough, we deliver it at a price, and it doesn't even register. Just gets pissed away. So I thought, let's not even save money for them anymore. Let's do it for ourselves. Let's keep the budgets low, the creativity high, because when you have less, you have to be more creative. It just makes the movie better. Yeah. So many people have come over the years and go, oh man, my favorite part in Desperado is when such and such happened. And I went, oh, that's because we ran out of sun and we had to use the fish. And it was like this. And that ends up being people's favorite moment over and over and over again. So when you set yourself up to have to be creative, it just makes the movie better. And you can feel that that's what those big movies lack because they're overthought. They're done by committees. The fans are an afterthought. They bring it to the fans only after they finish the movie because they don't even know what they got. They do a test screening. The fans tell them, this sucks. Fix that. Change that. Oh, we got to go reshoot now. So it's like bring the fans in from the beginning so they can be making those comments. So you're not going and shooting crazy and then have everybody be invested in it.
Yeah. And to that point a little bit, because I feel like, we'll get back to the business side of things, but I want to touch on the creative because you have really been a master of making the most out of next to nothing. And so what do you think are the tenets? What are the rules to live by maximizing creativity within constraints?
I always just like giving myself less time and less money. I'm from a fan. I know I'm like the only person who says that because it makes the movie better.
What is going on in your head? That's not.
Well, it started when I was one of 10 children.
Oh, that'll do it.
You're killing over here, by the way.
I can't waste money even when it's somebody else's money. It's just against my nature. So I found ever since Mariachi cost $7,000 and it won Sundance, and people would go like, how did you make that movie for $7,000? Well, look at it. What did it do you thought cost any money? And they looked at it and it was like, really nothing. Yeah. It was just being so creative and resourceful. And I thought, I'm just going to keep making, I just want to keep doing that forever because I love the freedom of it. I'd much rather have the freedom to cast. That's how I discovered Salma Hayek. Gave George Clooney his first movie. Brought Antonio from Europe. Because I could cast how I want and they couldn't say anything because I was spending so little money. That's how Sin City was, black and white, all voiceover, an anthology, all the things you're not supposed to do. But because it was lower budget and it had a huge cast that just wanted to work with me because they like creativity over just making money, even though we were able to pay them, I just shoot them really fast. I'll pay you a lot for 5 days. You'll be shot out. Benicio del Toro was on Sin City 4 days. Brittany Murphy's on all 3 stories. She was there 1 day. She never met anybody. I shot her on a green screen, and she popped into each one. Mickey Rourke never met Rutger Hauer. I shot them 8 months apart. Each one was reading to me, and I cut myself out, put them together with visual effects.
And that's part of how you were able to get.
How I able to work.
Part of how you were able to get Lady Gaga, right?
So I get Lady Gaga her first 2 movies. I say, I know you're on tour all the time. Just come to Austin for half a day. I'll shoot the poster. Your scenes, you'll be all over the movie. She couldn't believe it. She came back twice and then became an actress from that.
That's incredible.
You can just take chances and do things no one else will think of because you can move at the speed of thought.
Right.
Hollywood cannot move. There's a dinosaur trying to move. They have an idea. It's just not going to go through. It's just too congested. So there's a real opportunity to go do not just independent film, but very targeted action that people want and that they need and that they will pay a premium for, and we can own it. And even if one of those movies is successful, our investors make money and share in all the sequels and all the franchises that grow.
Right.
It should be them, not the people who are zombies in suits.
Right. And so you mentioned like the industry moves at like a glacial pace, like a move like dinosaurs. And I know Alexis, you started your career as an agent in like early 2000s. Robert, you've been making films since the early 90s.
Yeah.
Right. And so, what is your honest assessment of where the film industry now is compared to when you both entered? Like, has there been progress? Has it been better? Has it gotten worse? Like, where's the state of the film industry now?
Well, I mean, it depends what you're defining it by. When you talk to the companies that are part of Hollywood, that are part of the industry, the sky is falling. It's very negative, and they react to any negativity with more negativity, and then forget the positive stories that existed. Right? Like just for example, Longlegs was a giant hit this summer, arguably one of the biggest hits in the history of independent film. You didn't really hear that celebrated. You heard, oh, there's a horrible summer of box office. Why? Because the studios had a horrible summer of box office, and then everybody else that was able to play and connect with audiences had a great time. So the independent theatrical business is very healthy. Now, will it be as healthy when there's more competition from the studios? If you make the right product, if you make stuff that the audiences will connect with, and that's why we don't care what we're going up against, because we just think we can do it better.
I love that there's just more buyers. For me, if you're somebody who creates something, that there's more buyers, all I have to do is take, like for instance, that movie, We Can Be Heroes, I came up with it for Netflix, but then I happened to be at another studio pitching some other project. And I asked again, wait, before I even tell you my idea for my action movie, what is it that you're looking for? And they said, we need family. Oh, you need family too. Everyone needs family. Hey, I got a family pitch. I was supposed to pitch it to Netflix. I pitched it to Paramount. They were like, we'll buy that in the room. We'll buy that right now. And I was like, well, I owe it to somebody. Hold on, I'll come back to you. And I went to Legendary, who does Dune and stuff, pitched it to them. Mary Parent didn't want me to leave the room. I buy that right now. We even have a project similar, Hero of Academia, but the story's not as good as yours. We'll buy that one. I kind of have to go to Netflix because someone asked me, I pitch it to them because I really want them all bidding against each other. Go to Netflix, pitch it to them. They want it right then. I said, well, kind of promised it to Mary and Paramount.
You manipulative little so-and-so. I love
That's only 3 people. And it went for a high amount. I get all the freedoms, final cut, all the shit you can never get at a studio because they just want it so bad. And they know you're the only person who can make it because they can't make it themselves. So you have a track record of doing it. And they just heard the story, and it blows their mind. And sure enough, that's why kids watch it over and over again, because it just really gets them in a stranglehold of where their dreams are. Right. So then, so by having more buyers, we have an action idea, an action story, an action script. We have an actor attached. Even without that, we could take it there. They know they're starving for it. We need to go to a few places or hit them all, make them all bid against each other. And we could have phenomenal deals. Just with the very first picture, our investors could be making money because they're entering the money at the development stage. So any money we get won't go to just necessarily buying a script. It'll be just to give a writer money to just prioritize our project over the other 5 scripts he's writing, and we can get the things done faster. And everyone will be so excited about this label. Already I've gotten so much excitement from writers and directors and people who have heard about it. They want to come join because I'm committed to producing all the movies and directing at least one of them. So I'll have to find other directors to come do it. They're all going to want to be on the brass knuckle team. It just sounds so cool, and it's anti-Hollywood, and it gives them the finger.
And really, it's an accelerator, right? I mean, like the way you just described it, we hadn't used that word before, but really, it's like, how do we make shit faster?
Yeah.
Like we're gonna make it better, we're gonna make it more efficient, but let's not just be here talking about it, right? Let's be back here next year.
There's a special word in Hollywood called development hell. Yeah. Most movies in Hollywood go through development hell. They get developed, they never get made. It goes on for years because they're just. If I showed you the stuff some of them were developing, you'd go, I don't want to watch that. A lot of it is just not targeted at all. Ours is going to be targeted action, and we can go from development to shooting super fast. Sin City is the fastest any movie's ever been gone to screen, from idea to doing it. I met Frank Miller in November. Imagine, like, November, I met him. I showed him the test that I shot for Sin City. He was like, oh, so excited. But then he said, oh, no, then we'll have to write a script. We'll get notes from the studio. He'd been through the studio system before as a screenwriter. So it's not like that. I got my own studio. I'll write the script next month in December. In January, we'll shoot the opening scene with some actor friends, Josh Hartnett and Marley Shelton. And I'll cut it together, do the effects, do the music, do fake credits with our Dreamcast in it. I'll show it to you. If you like it, then you give me the rights, and we'll do the rights deal, and we'll go make the movie. If you don't like it, keep it as a short film, show your friends. Nobody in Hollywood would do that. We did it. He loved it. I show it to Bruce Willis. He looks at the Sin City book. He sees the opening scene. He sees that his name's already in the credits. I say, hey, you have to do it now. You're in the credits already. And he was like, damn, I'm in. And so we cast in February. So it's March now, right? January we shot it. Cast in February. We're shooting the movie by March with Mickey Rourke, Carly Gugino. Nobody has ever gone to screen on a very complex movie like that so fast. It's because I'm outside of Hollywood. And George Lucas told me that. He said, so good you're in Austin. That's why I'm in Marin County, because when you live outside of the box of Hollywood, you're going to think outside of the box. Automatically, you're just going to stumble upon innovations. And he was right. We're shooting digital before anyone, digital green screen before anyone. We're shooting the first digital 3D movie. It was all in Austin, not Hollywood, because they're very slow to move, very steeped in traditionalism. So you can just race through there, make their head spin.
They're like a cruise ship trying to do a U-turn.
Yeah, they're trying to do a U-turn, and we're just like...
Right. So to that point, I mean, there's been a big push to bring more film projects into Texas. I mean, there's like the short film that Matthew McConaughey shot, and Woody Harrelson, Dennis Quaid, Renee Zellweger.
Media for Texas.
Exactly right. So how viable do you think that is? Because I know that there's some pushback from Texas lawmakers being like, one of them was like, oh, I'm not going to let this like liberal Hollywood take Texans taxpayer dollars for this. Like, they don't deserve tax breaks. So how viable do you think it is to have Texas as like the quote unquote new Hollywood?
Yeah, it'd be great if we get the incentive. That's the only thing keep them from coming here. Actors love shooting here. They'd much rather be here than Atlanta or New Orleans or Albuquerque. They'd much rather be here. And so if we just had the incentives to incentivize movies to come here, we'd kill We'd be really, in a great position, because we show that the state's serious about investing. So much money goes into the economy here when a movie comes in. It's a very clean money. They come for a very short amount of time. They dump a bunch of money and they leave. It's the best. It's the best. Leave afterwards. And so I think they're finally getting wise to it. Rick Linklater and I have been preaching this for 30 years. But now, also the success of Taylor Sheridan, they just can't deny it anymore. He's just dominating. And he's committed to being in Texas. So now they're going to just have to step it up, because we just do so well to the state because of that.
And whether or not you agree with, their position of not wanting to have certain stories told here, right? Like it's relevant to us in that we want it to pass. It's not relevant to us in that, like, that's not what we're doing, right? Like I said, we want to play to everybody, right? So we're not going to have any agenda. We're not going to be divisive. We're going to make pure entertainment that can connect with everybody around the world and across America.
And so to that point, I know Robert, you know, as we've been talking about, you've made a career out of circumventing like traditional structures, and so knowing that this is something that's really kind of resting in the hands of lawmakers, like just riffing here, like what is like your game plan if you could like construct this push to have more film projects in Texas? How would you get around sort of like the legislation? Like what is sort of your DIY scrappy version of bringing more projects to Texas like this?
Oh, even if there was an incentive?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been doing it. Nobody stops me.
How do you scale that though? How do we make more of you then?
I don't know. I know how to. Maybe more people raised from 10 kids. I don't know. I just know how to. No matter what, I can always say, okay, what does the budget have to be? That little? That's still more than $7,000. Okay, I'll back up I'll back up from that and do it. I leverage the savings that I have at my studio, and I can just make them for less. Yeah. It's almost like name that price, and I know how high to stack the pizza.
Right.
It's just it's really. And there's a lot of, you can go directly to the cities sometime. Like San Antonio wants me to go shoot San Antonio from San Antonio. They can take city money, even if it hasn't been approved on a state level.
That's true.
And give you money to incentivize you to go shoot in their state. So there's still ways to save money there. And then there's other ways we can save money, just because the way we do things in particular. But we want more filming overall, so that we just have better crews here. A lot of our crews had to move to places they didn't want to move, because that's where the incentives were. That's where more production was being. But we have a real opportunity here. I hope the legislature recognizes that enough to do it, because it would be phenomenal.
Sure. We're gonna add anything, Alexis? Yeah. So I'm curious, like when it comes to getting your investors in Brass Knuckle Films, like when it comes to getting their maximum ROI, like their best return on investment, are you angling these projects to theatrical, streaming? Like what?
Well, they make well again, because they're coming in at development, they make money in conversion. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to convert all 4 of them, or do more than 4, and convert, spread the money into more bets. So if it gets made, they make money, right? Now, if it gets made and it has upside, they make more money. So of course, we'd love to have upside. The upside in the theatrical world is always higher than in the streamer world. But for the right price on the right project, like we both made movies and sold movies to every kind of distributor that exists.
Right. And, I'm curious because, like, in the announcement video that you had, Robert, in announcing Brass Knuckle Films, you said that, you're known for being the most efficient filmmaker in the business. And so I'd love it if you can put a finer point on how your approach to filmmaking will benefit potential investors in Brass Knuckle Films. Like, what is that direct correlation between you being so quick and efficient with making films to benefiting investors?
Quicker to profit. I mean, when you make these movies for so much money, that's why they're not as profitable for Hollywood. That's why they gave up trying to make horror films and action films, because they're too bloated and they can't take as many chances. And if it fails, they lose miserably, where a lower budget movie has a much better chance of success. And I've just found that throughout my career. You wouldn't believe how, I remember when I was making the Spy Kid movies, I just went to Dimension, that was owned by Disney, my label, and said, how much money can you spend on a movie before you have to go ask Disney for more? Like, how much can we just say, do whatever the hell we want? They go, probably 40 million, 35, 40 million. All right, I'll just make everything for under that. So I just made everything from under that. Spy Kids 1, Spy Kids 2, Spy Kids 3. The movies kept getting bigger and bigger, and the budgets just got lower and lower because of all the efficiencies I just kept figuring out. And that's never happened in Hollywood. Each sequel is like 3 times the cost of the previous one. That is like probably the most cost-efficient series ever.
Right. It's incredible. And so, do you ever see yourself, I know, we've been talking about action, that's your bread and butter, like, that's same with you. I mean, that's like the basis of like you starting your company as well. So, but do you ever see yourself expanding into other genres? Like once this really has its legs, like, because I don't know if there's an appetite for horror. I don't know, like if the studios come to you saying like, hey, instead of action, we're looking for X. Like, would you ever reflect that in Brass Knuckle Films?
Action always does great everywhere. Horror also does really well. So you could start a horror label. It could be like, we could always add, I wouldn't add even family to this right away, because right now it's always cyclical. I don't see a lot of people buying live action family. They're going towards animation more. So I wouldn't go even though I've had a lot of success with Spy Kids and then the most successful kids movie ever.
We also don't really want to encourage children to be playing with brass knuckles.
Yeah.
Toughen them up. They'll be fine. Yeah. So I mean, this is rolling out now, right? Like this is so. I guess like give me the timeline. Oh. Was that?
This week.
This week, yeah. So I guess like when you think about the timeline of tomorrow. So what's the timeline of people actually getting involved and like you said like pitching they're having the opportunity to pitch you a film. Like what's sort of the timeline of all that?
Well, there's a 48-hour.
Well, there's a lot of details. And anybody can go to brassknucklefilms.com.
Brass knuckle singular, because Knuckles sounds like the Sonic character. It's too cute, so I made Brass Knuckle Films.
So that and that lays out all the details of the timeline, and there's a window for investing, and there's but there's caps, right? So it will hit a cap.
Right.
I think before the end of the window.
Yeah.
We'll be doing. We've already started developing the slate. So we will have projects identified, ready to deploy capital on before the ink is dry on those investments.
Yeah, the pitch, I mean, like right now we'll have like a 48-hour window or something where the first the people who do it in that 48 hours get to bypass the pitching that's on paper. There's several levels. You pitch on paper first, and then you can go to a video presentation. You go right to the video presentation that I can see. But you have time to do the pitch. You don't have to do the pitch within 48 hours. Right. We'll give you quite a bit of time to develop your story because we want the best story. A lot of people have great stories, and I'll have pitching guidelines to show how you can even make your pitch stronger by saying make sure it has this, this, and this. And then it's really easy to come up with a pitch because you just kind of fill in the blanks. And sometimes people just have a great idea.
Yeah. And so to kind of like wrap everything up.
It's just the idea they have to pitch.
Sure.
Because if we love the idea, it's that core idea that if I told you, hey, I got a story right here, and I told it to you in 2 minutes, and if you're leaning forward like this to hear what's next, I would say, okay, we're buying that, but you don't have to write the script. You just came up with a brilliant concept. You get to be a co-creator. We're going to hire a writer, and I'll work with them too to make something that we can go sell. So it's really the pitch. It starts from the pitch. It starts from that idea that gets people's attention. And so many people have ideas like that. Just watched so many movies. They do. You've watched more movies than any studio executive, I can tell you that.
And so, I'm curious, just to sum everything up, like what is the long-term impact you're hoping this initiative will have?
I mean, I just thought it was cool to democratize the process even more. It's part of my independent spirit. We didn't need to do this. We could just go, make the movie. But I thought I'd love the idea of fans being involved and not being an afterthought. And I owe so much to the fans who support movies that I would love for them to not just get to see the movie and take their friends, but to put money in their pockets too and get a piece of the action.
There you go. Alexis, anything to add to that?
Yeah, we want to remind people about how much fun it is to watch movies. And with the number of choices people have at home, it can be very hard to get to movies. And yet, if it's 90 minutes long, like you can fit that in a night instead of starting, episode 1 of a 10-hour show, right? And but the movie's got to be appealing, right? The shows that are being made are excellent, and everybody talks about them. And I don't know how many people watch any single one show, right? Severance is in the zeitgeist now, but like people love all sorts of. But a movie, when it hits, it galvanizes. It's water cool. Everybody's talking about it for that period of time, right? And then they move on. But for that period of time, we want to capture that attention and take 90 minutes to 2 hours of their time for pure entertainment.
Nice. Love that. Thanks, guys. That's all I have for you. Give it up for Robin and Alexis. Yeah, appreciate it.